107.7 Pulse FM, home of the 2019 federal election for Surrey and its neighboring cities. #Pulse Politics.
The Canadian federal election is coming up on October 21st. Today's featured debate is Langley-Aldergrove. Joining us on the program, we do have individuals and candidates running from the NDP and the Liberals. Before we get started on our heated debate and discussions, if we could so kindly get you to mention on tape, of course, as we are recording this, and live your name and the party that you're calling, that you are joining us from.
My name is Stacey Wakelin, and I am running with the NDP party.
Yeah, my name's Jensen, and I'm running with the Liberal Party of Canada.
My name is Tara Lopez, and we're joined by Pulse FM's news director, Kevin Diakiw. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Tara. And thank you both for coming out today. It's great having you here. I want to start with Stacey Wakelin with the NDP. I want to ask you, what motivates you to run for office in the first place? What's causing you to stick your head out here in the public eye like this and apply for this job?
That is a great question. So I actually ran in the municipal election last year. Yeah. And I did that because I just didn't see my voice, the priorities, the issues that were important to me. I didn't see them represented in our local government. And I feel much the same way and have felt the 15 years that I've lived in Langley-Aldergrove, that I'm just not seeing myself represented. And in talking with many people in our community, there are a lot of people that feel the same way. So I'm here, running to represent those that feel they haven't had a voice. And I'm definitely the underdog, and I'm okay with that. I think there are a lot of underdogs out there, and we need our voices to be represented.
Oh, that's great, thank you. And same thing to Jensen. What's really driving you to get out there and run for office?
Well, I spent 42 years in the Canadian Army. Was living in Ottawa and decided that Langley-Aldergrove was where I was going to retire in the future. And I was approached by the Liberal Party out there and said, hey, you could be our guy to represent the community and run. And you know how Ottawa works, and you could be the voice of us there.
Perfect, beautiful. Stacey, you mentioned that there were issues that weren't being heard, or issues that weren't being addressed, that made you apply for office. What is the issue that you're hearing out there that's foremost in the mind of the people of Langley or Aldergrove?
Definitely. I am an avid volunteer in our community and an advocate, and I've been an activist. And definitely what I keep hearing about is affordability. So I sit on the board of the AAA Senior Housing Society, and we just had a housing event recently talking about affordability, about accessible, affordable housing for seniors. And I was speaking with a gentleman, and he said, when are we going to stop talking and start seeing more action? And that just is echoed. There are, we live in a very affluent community in a lot of respects. And I think that makes us, we're a little naive when it comes to the amount of people that are struggling. There are people that own their own homes that are struggling every day just to pay the bills. And I think those people deserve to have a voice and to have affordability be a priority.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Stacey. And Leon, what were you hearing out there about the issues that are most important to them?
Well, actually, I think the big one that's starting to come up these days is just people feel that they're not being listened to. The voice isn't getting to Ottawa. It's a lot of people tend to feel that it's being pushed down from the center. And in fact, what we need to do is ensure that we have the local representation to speak for the voice of the people that live in the community and get that message across to Ottawa. And the key one that's coming up, obviously, is the environment. Over the last weeks, you've seen it there in protests. People feel their voices aren't heard, so they're out in the streets trying to get that voice heard. Yeah. To the capitals of Ottawa and around the world. And we need to work together and get that plan into action.
My name is Tara Lopez. We're joined by Pulse FM's news director, Kevin Diakiw. We're also here in studio joined by the NDP and the Liberals from Langley-Aldergrove. That's NDP's Stacey Wakelin and the Liberals' Jensen. Let's spin that wheel of issues.
Alrighty.
See where it falls today. And it's looking like healthcare is our issue.
And we're going to Leon Jensen first with the Liberals. And so, Leon, what do you see as fixable with this healthcare system?
Well, the biggest one that most of the parties are talking about is the universal pharmacare program that we would like to bring in. And we're in the process of actually already starting to investigate how best to bring it in so it's affordable to Canadians from coast to coast. You know, there are certain provinces that are ahead of others as far as pharmacare, and we'd like to make sure that there's a national program in place to reduce the cost for those people that need it.
Okay. Now, you're investigating in this. The NDP's already delivered a plan. I'm sure they'll probably talk about, Stacey will probably talk about a bit here. A little bit behind the curve here. Is there anything more you can be doing besides just investigating it here?
Well, I think it's actually ahead of the curve. They're actually already in discussion with some of the companies and making sure that we can lower the price, because it's all about the affordability of the healthcare plan to make sure that we can fit it into the budget for Canadians to pay for it nationally. So there's a lot of details to it. It can't just be out there as a plan and say, here's what we have to go forward with. There's a lot of work behind it that's already been done.
Okay, regards to affordability, do you have a price tag on this yet?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. And Stacey Wakelin, same question to you. Healthcare, what do we do about it?
So definitely the NDP believes in the creation of a pharmacare program. Definitely from the conversations that I have in our community, we in this country, we pay the third highest prices for prescription drugs. And the NDP plan will see drug coverage that will save families more than $500 a year. Personally, I am really passionate about seeing an increase in mental health care services. I have spoken to so many people. Our family has been touched by a need for mental health care. And I've talked to so many people that either there's such a wait list for services that are, paid for by our medical system. And private services just won't cover it for many people. They can't afford it. So the NDP, we believe in a head-to-toe system that we feel will really impact everyday Canadians.
Thank you for that. Now, when you're talking about mental health care services that you want to see enhanced, are you talking about psychiatry?
Absolutely, everything. This is personal, but I have kidney stones. So I've spent time in our emergency department in Langley. So many of the people that are in that emergency department are there because of a mental health crisis. And so definitely psychiatry, counseling, it's something that we really need to investigate. I'm passionate about helping our neighbors that are experiencing homelessness. There is no doubt that mental health plays a role in those people's lives as well. And I think it's time, instead of, we always talk about erasing the stigma, it's time we put our money where, put our money into action. Okay,
and thank you for that. Now, you opened the door to this, so I'm going to ask the question on this. I hear from the medical healthcare professionals in the mental health field that what we really need is long-term psychiatric care. Currently, we're using our jails for long-term psychiatric care.
Yes.
How do you fix this?
You know what? I'm not an expert in this. We need to talk to those experts. We need, as a government, the government doesn't know everything. So we have to, in my mind, we have to seek those experts that are working every day, boots on the ground. We need those people to be advising us. And as a party, that's definitely what we would do.
Thank you very much, Stacey. More time for a wheel?
Yes, you're listening to Pulse Politics with the Canadian federal election on October 21st. Today's featured debate is Langley-Aldergrove. We were hoping for the Green Party's Kaya Farstad to join us today, and for the Conservative Teiko Van Popta as well to join us on the program. However, they did decline our invitation. We do have the NDP Stacey Wakelin and the Liberals Leon Jensen in the House. Let's spin that wheel of issues one more time. And it's looking like affordability.
There we have it. Affordability is always the hot button throughout the region. And we are going to Stacey Wakelin with the NDP on this first, affordability. How do we address this problem?
So there will be a different answer, I believe, for everyone in our community. Personally, I am a parent. I have been having a lot of conversations with other parents. I was just a part of the stroller brigade in Langley. Childcare is a huge issue for a lot of families. The NDP believes in investing $1 billion in childcare in 2020. Childcare is, for many people, too expensive. There's also a lack of spaces available. And if we're going to solve the childcare issue, we also have to address the staffing component. So we need to pay our early childhood educators a decent wage, and we also have to. That is probably, actually, if we're going to solve the problem, we have to begin there. And pharmacare, too many people can't afford prescriptions. I have talked to many people. I know someone that actually had to move back home because he couldn't afford his medication that wasn't covered. So to me, those are two huge issues that will definitely impact residents, and housing affordability. That's always something that comes up. So many people are precariously housed, whether they're living in a basement suite, and we know in Langley that homes are being torn down and townhomes are going up at a rapid pace. And so we have to, housing is an incredibly important part of that discussion as well.
Thank you very much for that, Stacey. Now, I've got to ask you about the housing issue. I know the NDP is talking about building 500,000 units of housing in the next 10 years.
Yes. For
a price of about $10 billion, which I think most people believe is a little bit light. But how are you going to come up with that $10 billion, sir?
Well, we believe in looking at our system a different way. So definitely finding revenue in a different way. Ultra-rich Canadians with a net worth of over 20 million, we're asking to pay a 1% wealth tax. We have to ensure that our large corporations aren't walking away without paying their fair share. So I think, that's often something that comes up. How will you pay for it? We'll just make different decisions. And I think there is an opportunity to do that. I think if we, the system is broken for so many Canadians, and this election is an opportunity to make different choices.
Thank you very much, Stacey. And Liberal Leon Jensen, over to you with this. This has got to be the biggest issue I've seen in the region so far from people we talked to, affordability. How are you going to fix that?
Well, it's certainly on the top of a lot of people's list because they see it every time they get the paycheck at the end of the week or the end of the month. But what we've already started is, since we were elected in 2015, is we did raise the taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we could lower it for the middle class. And we put that in place, so there should be a difference in the taxes at the federal level. We've also introduced the first ever national housing strategy to try and lower some of the costs for certain groups of people that are willing to go together with the national government and build affordable housing for the people that can't afford other housing. But it also involves the taxes, eliminating the tax on the first $15,000 of income, increasing the old age security for seniors, and enhancing the survivors' benefits for seniors. When one of the senior couples dies, there's a survivor benefit, but now the total income is a lot less. So we can increase part of that for the surviving pensioner. It certainly makes their life a little bit easier to get by with. Increase the Canada Child Benefit, extra 15% for all those children under 1 year of age, tax-free maternity and parental benefits. These all add up to help make it so it's less expensive to get by month.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I need to correct you on one thing. This isn't the first ever national housing strategy. We had one in the 1990s the Liberals walked away from. I need to ask you what the difference is between these two national housing strategies and what are the hard targets in this current national housing strategy?
Okay, you got me on that one. I didn't realize that we had one in the 1990s that we walked away from. I'd have to take a look into that, and I could certainly get back to you once I
So what
do
are
that
the hard targets
investigation.
on this one? What are you aiming to do in this one?
I'm not too sure if we've got any exact hard targets as far as it is out there, but it's already in place. There's already actually a couple of projects in Langley-Aldergrove that are going up with associations out there that have already started breaking ground on some of these projects.
Leanne Jensen, thank you very much.
You're listening to Pulse Politics. Today's featured debate is Langley-Aldergrove. And thank you very much to our candidates for joining us today here at the 107.7 Pulse FM studios. Before we let you go, we do have one final question for you, too. And it is a very random
I warned
question. Kevin might have warned you off the air. We'll find out what your answers are. The question is, for our 90s 2K and Today listeners here in Langley-Aldergrove and south of the Fraser, what was your most favorite song from the 1990s? We'll start with the NDP's Stacey Wakelin and go on to the Liberals' Leon Jensen.
So I love this question and I appreciate a warning, but definitely it's the Tragically Hip, and I'm going to go with Ahead by a Century.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Good one. Great one.
Oh, I've got to kind of fill you in on a little bit of I was in Lévis, Quebec in the 1990s, a big formal military dinner. We're all dressed in red. We're all listening to this great fancy symphony orchestra, and we started singing Voyageur songs. So my favorite song is actually a Voyageur song, a Bon Home, which is now being brought into the artillery as our national song. And we were all sitting there just rapping on the tables, having a great old time, singing good old Canadian folk songs.
Great answer for next military guy. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Good call. This has been Pulse Politics with the Canadian federal election coming up on October 21st. Today's featured debate has been Langley-Aldergrove. We were hoping that Conservative Taco Van Popta and Green Party's Kaya Farstad could join us today in studio. However, we did not get a confirmation for their appearance. The NDP's Stacey Wakelin and the Liberals' Leon Jensen were able to join us today. Now, tomorrow's featured debate is going to be Burnaby, New Westminster. So hopefully you'll join us again between 7:30 and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning right here on 107.7 Pulse FM. Got to say thank you again to our candidates for joining us today in studio. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best on October 21st, the Canadian federal elections.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Get informed with the next debate tomorrow with Pulse Mornings between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. #Pulse Politics.